Now, I have a lot of experience of working the beat, so to speak, down in Baltimore Street in Maryland. And we're in the city, so you expect to see all kinds of cray cray, but this was kind of the norm, and we knew what we were getting ourselves into. And I'm just going to share a little ditty. We would go into this one particular set of strip clubs, and we would just sit down. And I'd put a $20 bill up on the bar, and I'd tell the chick I just want some water, and we're going to sit here and just mind our P's and Q's. And we'd sit, and it wouldn't take any more than a minute or two that we would have some girls coming around being like, what are you here for? But man, were they gravitating for some comfort. And boy, did they just want to be like away from the cray cray that surrounded them, all the men reaching up on them and stuff. So we just sit there, and within a few minutes, they would just start crying, telling us their life stories, and many, many miracles went down in a lot of the strip clubs that we went into to pray for. And I could give story after story of going to New York City and praying in bars specifically because Daddy told us to go in there, and every single event. I think I have to always have a mini recorder with me because it's like, oh my gosh, this just happened. Or I need a video camera, which is great because now our iPhones can do so much for us. But some people might take it as I'm being a little obnoxious, but no, they're just really awesome stories. So I was working at the youth group, with the youth group, I should say. And I was kind of taken, into the hallway, and I was dealing with more of the problem type kids. They were my cup of tea anyway. I mean, I could get along with them and relate to them so well. But, we were kind of, sitting out there and telling stories. And there's this little girl, teenager, and she's like, I'm not feeling so well. She's got the sweats. And she's like, I have a bite on my back. I can't see it. And so, something happened. She lifts up her shirt, and she has a flesh-eating wound about this big on her back. And I am like, what the holy heck, Rama has happened to you? I'm like, we got to get you to the hospital. I mean, you knew that something was seriously wrong because it was like deep and rotting flesh, okay? So I, interrupt everybody else that was holier than thou. And I went into the, youth group where everybody else was, and I said, this girl, something's up with her. I got to take her to the hospital. And I was told in a very professional and profound way that I could do no such thing, because if I did that, then I would make the church liable because they don't have jurisdiction to kind of handle everybody's needs outside of the confines of their four walls. And I'm like, are you serious? And I just was baffled. And they said, well, yeah, you can't do this. It would be a liability and everything. And, she's just going to have to go to the hospital on her own. I'm like, right, okay. Because most teenagers have access to vehicles and to hospitals and, and let's not even take into account that she's probably not coming from the best of homes. So, which you knew that already, but okay. So, I'm taking her to the hospital. Just saying. So we pack her up in the car, and it was basically, this warning, well, you're responsible. And I'm like, I'm good. That's great. That's a responsibility that I can just pretty much lift up to God, and he can handle on his big shoulders. So we go into the hospital, and she's admitted, and the doctors come, and they're just like, maybe a few hours, she would have been dead. It was a brown recluse spider, and in fact, she could not remember when she got bit by it, but she knew that she started feeling really bad in the past 2 days, and they had given her, hours, and so she's hooked up to the IV, and it's time for us to go get her something to eat. And I go to the cafeteria, and I'm thinking I want her to have like the best of the best. I'm getting wheat bread, I'm loading up, the turkey and the provolone and all the great sandwiches and things that I would want to eat because, they're pampering. It's like nice. You're posted up in the bed. I want you to feel comfortable. And something told me, probably Holy Spirit, it ain't going to go over well with her. So I'm like, well, what's the beef? So I take it back to her, and she's like, oh, I don't eat wheat bread. I'm like, no, you don't, do you? She's like, no. And she's like, I like white bread and bologna and mustard. She's like, because that's what I'm used to eating. That's all I can afford. I should have known better because hey, when times were tight when I was a kid and there was all kinds of cray-cray going down, you took what you could get. And that was always going to be something other than a wheat sandwich with, the best of the ingredients on it. So, I was like, well, I'll go back and I'll get you, what you want. And, we did that and she was content. And so she would stay there for a few days and I would come back and check on her. And, I, I only had the address of where her grandparents were living and that's who she was staying with. So she got discharged and I was at the youth group the following week and she didn't show up and then a week passed and I did not see or hear from her. And in fact, nobody else had. So I went to grandparents' house and I knocked on the front door and they were like, we haven't seen her. And I'm like, are you for real right now? Really? Now this, I have to tell you, this is how the Lord has always moved in my life. These are the girls that I took in. I took in about 12 over the course of 3 years. And so I'm acquainted with lack of parenting. And I am acquainted with taking people out of terrible situations and placing them in some kind of peaceful state before we figure out how we're going to move on and help them find their needs taken care of. Whether that be foster care, ministries, it hasn't always fared well. People doing things in the name of God and then really causing more harm. So, after years of doing this, you learn what not to do. Needless to say, a year or two had gone by and I'm working the beat, down in Baltimore, working with those people. I'm ready to take in every stripper, every prostitute I can just to be like, let's get rid of all the nonsense and the clutter. And lo and behold, one of the places that we were sitting at the bar, one of the clubs, it was just something had clued me in to this was going to be a different night. And we're praying with all these girls, and they're like they all had abuse. Every stripper is going to tell you they're here to make some kind of money, whether they're a single mom or whether they're, helping support a family or whatever. But the predisposition to even taking a job where you have to remove your clothes tells me that you have some kind of boundary that was crossed before the age of 7. I'll be generous, before the age of 9. And lo and behold, I don't even have to ask any questions. They volunteer the information. And every chick that we've ever met in our time has had absolute 100% type of abuse in their background. So we're walking out and one of the strip clubs had burnt down like a day or two before we got there. And I see this skinny little girl that's really familiar looking walking out of this burnt down building. And I look closer and it's the girl that had the brown recluse spider bite. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe you're here right in front of my eyes. I was just so excited because I'm like, I have missed you. I have prayed for you. Where did you go? What happened to you? Why are you walking out of the burned strip club? I don't understand. And as fate would have it, as the enemy's plan would have it, that was her place of employment. And now she needs to work at another club. So she and I were passing each other as I'm walking out of one club. She's going into one to try to get a job. And I'm just like, I don't want this for you. This is not who you are. This is not good enough. I want to help you. What else can I do for you? Let's get you a job doing something else. I had a cleaning business and that was the plan, to always employ people so that they could learn that they were entrepreneurs of their own right and to enjoy working with their hands and the satisfaction of making something look beautiful that when they first came onto the scene was not so nice. But, it was really just a gift. It was a gift because there wasn't a day that had gone by that I didn't think to myself, am I ever going to see this girl again? Is she okay, Lord? Can you answer my prayers? And he did. He did. He answered my prayers and I was able to reconnect with her and stay in touch with her. I'm going to see her anyway. I'm going into the strip club, so now I'll get to sit down and, get her something to eat and take care of her. And that was a union, a gift that God gave back to me after years of grieving something that I thought I would never get back. And that's the word I'm ending with you. Don't give up. If there is people that you feel you can't ever see rehabilitated or reunited with or come across paths with again, I'm telling you, it's possible. Everything and anything is possible with God. And He's doing it because He wants to give back something to the both of you. And He can do that too. Man, we're just getting started. These stories are going to keep coming. Just keep coming.